I'm Chris Farrell, and this is On Watch. Happy Thursday, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Glad to be back. Missed a week of giving you updates. Today we've got three topics for you. Number one, we're going to talk about Huma Abedin and her 28,000 emails. Number two, we're going to talk about the state of our Justice Department. And then number three, I'm going to talk about Guatemala, of all things, and I'm going to give you some homework to do. So first off, 28,000 emails in Huma Abedin. Guess what, folks? Anthony Weiner, the infamous disgraced congressman and husband of Huma Abedin, he had his own little laptop that he was busy talking to teenage girls on, and of course he's now in grave legal trouble and will sit in jail probably for that. When the NYPD and FBI went in to look at that laptop because of his bizarre behavior with respect to sexting and communicating with young girls, they discovered that Huma Abedin's emails were on that laptop. So in some way, she was either logged in on that laptop or backing up files to that laptop. But look, the fact is that laptop contained these emails that are work-related. So they were State Department records and documents from work that were backed up onto this, or at least were resident on this laptop. And the State Department just came to us and said, hey, look, of all these emails that we've already produced to you, we now have this additional 2,800 emails. That's important because we've been at this now for literally years, trying to recover emails that no one else is terribly interested in finding. And it's only through our litigation that we're compelling the government to go back and check and double check. And we keep finding more and more emails, which really means that the false and misleading statements, the lies that were perpetrated by Hillary Clinton and her inner circle, really just keep getting worse. They're getting deeper. We have a total of, I think now, 627 emails that we have uncovered that no one else has ever seen before. And these are emails that they made representations about in court and to the phonied up Jim Comey FBI investigation, where they swore that they had produced everything. And we're still finding new ones. So here's another batch of 2,800. The State Department claims that some of them may be duplicative. We'll see. But just based on what we've done so far, we already have uncovered 627 that they swore didn't exist. So stay tuned. More is coming. Everybody else may have moved on to other topics. You know how persistent we are, right? We never quit. We never stop. We never forget. And we will continue to dig down on this topic and get more information and make it available and public on our website, judicialwatch.org, to you, because they are your documents, not Huma Abedin's and certainly not Anthony Weiner's. Okay, topic number two, the Department of Justice and what is going on there, or better yet, what isn't going on there. Last night I was on the Lou Dobbs show, and you can go to our website and see the video clip from the interview. But I posited to Lou Dobbs, and I've consulted with my colleagues here about this. We are sliding off the edge of the world here. We're in a position where we are no longer what we used to be. And what I mean by that is there's been so much corruption within the Department of Justice and the FBI. There's been so much sort of deep state actor stuff going on that our Department of Justice and our FBI are now either paralyzed by inaction or compromised. And I encourage you to go back and look at the segment I did with Lou Dobbs last night. But what those are indicators of, what that inability to conduct legitimate investigations and then prosecute cases that bring about accountability and consequences for people that have broken the law, what those are symptoms of, or what that presents as, is a failed state. When the justice system is broken, you have a failed state, because there's no equal justice under the law. There's no ability to bring your claim before a court or to a government agency and seek redress or to be made whole, or some form of justice for a crime committed against you. So whether it's a criminal matter or whether it's a civil matter, our ability as citizens to have confidence in the justice system is increasingly corroded. It's falling apart. And public trust and confidence in public officials, it's going right with it. So when you look at this latest reporting on the uranium Russian scandal, going back now 7 years, the same people involved in that 7 years ago, whether it's Mr. Mueller or Mr. Rosenstein, they're the same people supposedly now looking at the Trump administration for collusion, whatever that means. They haven't been able to present any evidence whatsoever with respect to the Trump administration, yet these same characters sat on and covered up a Russian corruption story that's outrageous, that directly ties to Hillary Clinton, the Uranium One sale, turning over 20% of the nation's uranium to the Russians. All these characters had knowledge of this corruption case, and they did nothing. And then they sat on it and tried to keep it covered up for years. That is a grave problem. I can't explain to you, or I'm trying to explain to you at least, how important that is. And so the average American knows that they would never get away with this. And they're perpetrating this idea, or they're promoting this concept that somehow, laws are for the little people. So if you or I to do something, we'd get hammered, and you know it. But Hillary Clinton and her little circle of friends, they do whatever they damn well please, and somehow they're able to walk away, and there are no consequences, and there's no accountability, and you don't hear anything from either the Justice Department or from the FBI, or for that matter, you don't really hear very much even on Capitol Hill, even though their hearings are largely kabuki theater. I'm more interested in legal consequences, things like grand juries and indictments and trials. But there's nothing that happens. And I don't know how much longer we can take this, frankly. When it's so plainly obvious that there is not equal justice under law, when Clinton and that whole gang of people can walk away without consequence, wherein the average person or the ordinary citizen gets hammered, that sticks in the craw of the public. And I think to some degree the election of President Trump is sort of an outcome of that. There's people that were fed up with kind of the deep state or the establishment or whatever it is you want to call it, but there's a disgust with it. The problem is here and now, 10 months in to the new administration, sadly there isn't a lot of real change. I mean, there's been this little effort made by government actors to try to look into these matters, but mostly, frankly, it's been Judicial Watch and some members of the press. And if we hadn't been doing what we were doing, you wouldn't know about it. So that is very disturbing stuff. They are legitimate indicators of us sliding towards that kind of outer boundary of really going into being a failed state. It's not an exaggeration. It's not an overstatement. And I think that you should communicate that in a firm but polite way to your elected representatives and let them know you're fed up. You're not going to take it anymore. Okay, point number 3, and this is where we're going to close out today. Guatemala. Why should you care about Guatemala? And why am I going to give you homework to go do about Guatemala? This is important stuff. What we have in Guatemala, which has always been a close ally of the United States, always been a good friend, is really a hemispheric crisis. This is a soft coup going on in Guatemala. And it's an alliance between, get your scorecard out because you got to pay close attention on this one. On the left, you've got the former ambassador, the Obama ambassador to Guatemala, a guy named Robinson, who's still kind of floating around the picture down there. Even though he's out of office, he's still a presence there. This guy Robinson. You've got Soros operatives, various Soros front groups running around doing mischief. You've got a left-wing, homegrown attorney general who was leveraged into position there. She has her own agenda and is seeking to consolidate power. And then the last piece of the puzzle, if I talk about Soros, what do I have to talk about? The United Nations. You've got this UN commissioner, a guy by the name of Velasquez, who's actually a Colombian who's been appointed into this commissioner position where he oversees supposedly public corruption issues. You've got this weird alliance, Obama holdovers in the embassy, the former ambassador, Soros people, this left-wing attorney general, and then this UN overlord character, Velasquez. And they are all actively working against the lawfully elected president by the name of Morales and his cabinet. So, Soros, UN, and all these sort of Obama operatives versus the lawfully elected president. And what do these folks do? They attempt to influence improperly, unlawfully influence the sitting administration, President Morales and his administration, his ministers. And their leverage is to claim that there's outrageous corruption, although nobody will bring any charges. And then they try to hold UN and USAID money hostage in order to try to compel the sitting president to do the things that they want him to do. And this is an ongoing fight. And it's extraordinarily dishonest because the left is using this sort of boogeyman word of corruption, 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 although they don't actually say what's been done that's wrong. And so there's a left-wing agenda being carried out against a lawfully elected government in a way that really seeks to undermine and destabilize not just the government, but the country itself. This is a classic soft coup. It's ongoing. I'd like you to go back and do a little research and find out this cast of characters that I've been talking about, whether it's former Ambassador Robinson, whether it's this UN official by the name of Velasquez, the current Attorney General. Look at the Soros involvement in Guatemala. Educate yourself on that, because this kind of destabilization, this kind of a threat against a lawfully elected government, this soft coup, in its own way, we're seeing a variation on that in our own country with the deep state, with people who are actively working against the president. People can object, people can have differing points of view, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you attempt to criminalize honest differences in public policy, that's where you've gone off the charts. We're allowed to disagree. We're allowed to have differing points of view. We can argue vociferously. That's great. But when people try to criminalize or brand people as corrupt just because you don't agree with them, when you try to unlawfully take their legitimate power by making false claims against them, that is the very definition of corruption. And it's a soft coup. It's happening in Guatemala, and we need to be very concerned about anything even remotely like that happening here. So you've got your homework assignment. Go get smart on Guatemala because it's our backyard, it's our ally, and you should be interested in it because it points to larger questions and issues. It points to things at the United Nations. It points to things regarding Soros. Even Hillary Clinton has an office in Guatemala. Think about that. What is she doing down there? So that's your homework assignment. You need to go out there and start doing research. I'm going to charge you with that today. And I look forward to talking to you again next week. I'm Chris Farrell on Watch.